Does anyone else think that people in horror movies are just downright stupid? Like, really, if I'm running from some mass murderer, I'm not running to some small, closed-off space. No, I'm heading for a large room with multiple exit points, so no matter which door they decide to bust down with a machete, I have another good one, right there. And windows. They always forget about windows. I may not be able to break through a wall, but I can break through a window. Now, I know you all agree with my carefully thought out plan and would personally like to see me put to the test, so you don't have to listen to the rest of my speech. But the scary thing is, you have no choice. Welcome to How to Get Away from Murderers by Bailey Raymond. Today, we will be going over 3 basic steps. First, look at the background of the location. We'll see how fear is cultivated and controlled in your mind. Next, we'll look at the specter/killer that's in front of you today, which is the societal expectations that cause fear every single day. And finally, we'll plan our escape route. Courage comes at a cost. It's much too expensive for most people, especially the horror movie characters, the little wimps. When planning your trip to Springwood, Ohio, make sure not to stay on Elm Street, or else you might be plagued by murderous nightmares. And if you tell anyone of such nightmares that incite fear in you every single night, they'll call you mental. Now, horror movies and nightmares are great ways to incite fear, but it can also be little things such as geometry tests, steep stairs, or even speech tournaments. Whatever your fear may be, your brain recognizes the threat based on past experiences. The hippocampus and prefrontal cortex perceive the threat and relate it to memories, and then the amygdala activates the fight or flight response, which in turn increases your blood pressure and breathing rate, pumps blood to all the muscles, and gives your bloodstream a healthy dose of adrenaline. While the following factors, context, social learning, and distraction, all have a part of how we experience fear, a common theme is a sense of control, says Assistant Professor of Psychology at Wayne State University, Linda Sapp. Your brain will limit all else in the spectrum of focus so you can directly target the threat at large. I should probably mention that your response to living in a horror movie is a lot different than your response to watching one. When watching a movie, your prefrontal cortex and hippocampus prevent the full-fledged response from occurring, which makes scaring people a lot less fun. We've talked about how we learn our fears and how they're processed in our brain. Now we must ask the question, are we born with fears as well as those that we learn? It's been discovered that 2 innate fears have developed in all living beings through the process of evolution. A 1960 study by psychologists Eleanor Gibson and Richard Walk put this to the test with a visual clip. Small animals and children were beckoned across a glass platform, and many would not, proving that once depth perception has been developed, so does a fear of falling. Seth Norholm, a translational neuroscientist at Emory University, discovered that all living beings have an acoustic startle response, meaning that if I pop a balloon or scream really loud, you'll automatically duck. I would start screaming as an example, but I need to preserve your ears for the rest of my speech. Have you ever seen the movie Saw? No, not Seesaw. The movie Saw, with the guy in the creepy white pig mask. I want to play a game, hee hee hee. Well, just as he manipulated his subjects into doing things such as cutting off their own feet, we've been manipulated through our entire lives in a much less gruesome way. We have learned how to act through our own experiences and through stories of the experiences of others. Our parents used stories to incite fear and teach us what to be. The true grim fairy tales are much scarier than some horror movies. Through The Boy Who Cried Wolf, we learned that lying could result in you getting eaten by a wolf. In Hansel and Gretel, we learned that disrespecting your parents and being greedy could result in you being eaten by a witch. And the 3 Little Pigs taught us that if you just skip through life and take the easy path, you could be eaten by another big bad wolf. Getting eaten was a common source of fear in the minds of most children. were scared into compliance as children to teach us morals. This is a way fear was positively used to control. Your fear today may not yield such positive consequences. We walk through life searching to stay in the indistinct borderlines that society has granted us. Best-selling mystery author Rita Brown says, "The result of conformity is being liked by everyone but ourselves." We've been taught to highly value the opinion of others and be subservient to our elders, which creates a silent, servile personality in way too many. It is ingrained in our brains that ostracism is the result of holding an opposing opinion. We have a fear of being separated, which overrides that inner moral need to do the right thing. Everything you've learned in all of your morals are pushed aside when fear enters your mind. But luckily for us, there's an escape, a remedy to your fear. When we see that big, scary Pennywise face to face, most will laugh or pee themselves. Everybody has a different reaction. But now it's time that we escape. We won't run from the source of fear, but rather overcome it by finding courage. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the judgment that something is worth more than it, says James Hollingworth, a man who wrote despite of his fear of criticism by using a pseudonym. He knew that his opinions deserved to be heard, so he continued to go with his passion. To overcome fear, we must find courage by judging that something is worth more than our fear. Ask yourself, do a few minutes of your own life cause you more worry than thinking about the regret you'll have for years after? Is it worth correcting the Starbucks barista when they get your drink order wrong? Do you value a second of your own life more than the lives of others? It may only be a few seconds of fear for you as you stand up for someone who's hurting, but it can have lifelong impact on the victim. You must choose what matters more to you. Public speakers have excelled at these methods. They know that their message deserves to be heard, and so they will choose this over the fear of criticism. Best-selling author Rita Brown says, "We who have a means and a way must use both for those who have neither." So, when you're persuaded into conformity and being someone you don't want to be, prioritize your happiness. When you're persuaded into changing your interest in your style, prioritize your individuality. When you are persuaded into playing a game with a guy in a creepy white pig mask, prioritize your sanity. Don't be a stupid horror movie character that gets killed in the first 5 minutes. Be a smart one that gets killed in the final scene. Your efforts to override your fear may not always be fruitful, and sometimes the backlash will be too strong, but go ahead and scare them with your willpower. Before entering any deserted houses, make sure to check the background. If you need to, Google it. And then, if you meet that crazy specter face to face, introduce yourself. And finally, if they've already rejected your offer for friendship and a hug, politely ask to be excused, even though your amygdala is flashing red lights and everything you've ever learned is telling you to run. Remain calm and congratulate yourself. You're alive. Some people are so ungrateful to be alive, but not you. Not anymore.